left home to escape my controlling brother, Mark, and neglectful parents. Living with Shay and Avery gave me a taste of freedom, but Mark's messages pulled the past back. Through fear, confrontation, and support from my new chosen family, I finally claimed my power in my life. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe. Get ready for real emotional and thrilling stories from Black adults that will keep you hooked till the end. I used to believe that every house had a heartbeat. Some days warm, some days cold, and some days so heavy that it felt like the walls were inhaling your spirit. Mine was the last kind. My name is Maria Collins, and the house I grew up in didn't just dim my light, it swallowed it whole. From the outside, it looked ordinary, a quiet home sitting at the end of a cul-de-sac in Tacoma, Washington. But inside, it felt like I was living in the shadow of people who only remembered me when they needed something. My little brother, Ethan, was the most talented beggar I'd ever known. I don't mean that cruelly, just truthfully. Every morning started with the same routine. Maria, can you send me $50? I'm kinda stuck. He was always kinda stuck. Always needing. Always taking. And every time I transferred the money, our mother would yell from the living room, "You're the responsible one, Maria, help him." You know how he is. Yeah. I knew exactly how he was. Spoiled, irresponsible, and somehow still their favorite. I was the straightest student. The girl who balanced part-time work, scholarships, and cooking dinner when my parents couldn't be bothered. But no matter how much I achieved, I was invisible except when someone needed saving. That was the thing about my family. I was their safety net. Never their daughter, but the real reason that house suffocated me was Mark, my mother's boyfriend. Not abusive in a physical sense. Just dark. The kind of man who walked into a room and sucked the air out. His presence was a warning sign I could never decode. Every time he entered, a tightness knotted in my stomach, telling me I didn't belong, not even in my own home. He watched things too closely: doors, footsteps, conversations, and somehow, he always knew when I was trying to distance myself. He never yelled. He didn't have to. The silence he carried held its own threat. Every night, lying awake in my room, I would whisper to myself, "One day you're leaving. One day, this house won't own you," and I meant it. The only warmth in my neighborhood came from the house next door specifically. Why Shay Bennett, the 19-year-old girl who treated me more like family than anyone with my last name ever had. Shay was the kind of person who could turn a boring Tuesday into an adventure. Tall, soft-featured, gentle, always in mismatched socks and hoodies too big for her. She would knock on my window when she sensed I was having a bad night, hand me a mug of hot cocoa, and say, "I can hear your heart from my room. It beats too fast when you're scared." I never asked how she knew. I just let her sit beside me until the trembling inside me settled. She was my lighthouse in a world that had been dark for too long, but things reached a breaking point one night in early fall, my final night. In that house. It started with Ethan pounding on my door, demanding money again. I refused for the first time in years. He stormed off, shouting about how selfish I was. My parents sided with him, of course. They always did. But it wasn't their reaction that pushed me over the edge. It was Mark. He stood in the hallway, watching me with unreadable eyes, and said quietly, "This house works because everyone knows their role. Maria, don't start changing yours." Something inside me snapped. Not loud, just clear. My role? My role had been to bend, break, give, and keep giving until there was nothing left, and suddenly I was done. When everyone went to bed, I packed my backpack, 3 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, my laptop, and a folded envelope with the emergency savings I'd been hiding for months. My hands shook, but my heart felt strangely steady. I opened my window and climbed out onto the cool grass. Taking one last look at the house that had consumed so much of me, I expected sadness. I felt none. Instead, I felt something I hadn't tasted in years: Cologne freedom. I walked straight to Shay's house. She opened the door before I could knock, eyes sleepy but soft. "Maria? It's late. Are you okay?" I didn't trust my voice, so I just nodded, though everything inside me was screaming no. "You're not okay, but you're finally doing something right." She didn't ask questions. She simply stepped aside and said, "Come in. You can stay here." And just like that, for the first time in my life, I chose me. I didn't know then how deeply Shay's world would intertwine with mine, or that a stranger named Avery Cole would soon change the direction of my entire future. All I knew was that I had stepped out of the house that ate my light. And maybe, just maybe, I was about to discover what it felt like to shine. Asterisk waking up in Shay Bennett's guest room felt like waking up inside someone else's life. There was sunlight. There was quiet. There was no Ethan yelling from the hallway, no mother guilt-tripping me, and no Mark's heavy shadow lurking behind every door. Just soft yellow curtains moving with the morning breeze and the faint smell of French vanilla from Shay's scented candle. I lay there for a long moment thinking, is this what normal feels like? When I finally stepped into the kitchen, I found Shay standing by the stove, half asleep, stirring oatmeal like it was a delicate science experiment. Her hair was up in a messy bun, and she wore an oversized Snoopy t-shirt. She looked up at me and smiled. Warm and effortless, morning world traveler, she teased. Ran away from home, crossed the yard. That's at least 2 emotional time zones. I really laughed for the first time in months. Shay slid a bowl toward me. Eat, you look like you haven't slept properly in a year. I probably haven't, I admitted. She didn't push for details. She had this rare gift. She could make you feel understood without prying. Like she already knew what hurt but didn't want to make you reopen the wound. Still, I knew she was curious. Anyone would be. So, after a long pause, I finally said, I'm not going back. Shay put down her spoon and sat across from me. Good, she replied softly. You don't deserve the weight of a whole house on your shoulders. Her words made something warm unfold in my chest. Something that felt suspiciously like hope. That afternoon, Shay helped me move the rest of my things from my bedroom while my family was out. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't comment on the tension in the air. She just held the bag open while I threw in my clothes and chargers, and a small box of memories. But when we walked back to her house, she said something I wasn't expecting. You know you're safe with me, right? I swallowed hard. Yeah, I do. And I meant it. Days passed, then a week. I found myself adjusting to Shay's world, a world where breakfast wasn't a battlefield, where someone asked how your day went because they genuinely wanted to know, and where laughter came from the heart, not obligation. But something interesting happened. D2, I started learning who I was without the weight of my family's expectations. I caught myself humming while making coffee. I took long walks without needing an excuse. I even actually slept without waiting for footsteps outside my door. But freedom came with guilt. Each time I relaxed, a tiny voice whispered, shouldn't you be doing something useful? Helping someone? Saving someone? One evening, Shay and I were sitting on the porch, legs wrapped in blankets as we watched the streetlights switch on. She glanced at me sideways. You're thinking too loud, she said. I smiled weakly. I keep wondering if leaving was the right choice. You didn't leave, she corrected gently. You escaped. I looked down at my hands. What if they need me, Maria? Needing you and easing you aren't the same thing. The truth stung, mostly because it was the first time someone said it out loud. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I was returning from a walk when a car pulled up beside me, a black SUV with tinted windows. My heart stuttered because for a second I thought it was marked up, but it wasn't. A guy stepped out. Tall, clean-cut, soft brown hair that fell over his forehead like he didn't know what to do with it. He wore a navy hoodie and held a cardboard box. He looked almost startled to see me. Sorry, he said, giving a nervous smile. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm Avery. I just moved in across the street. I exhaled, relieved. Maria. He nodded to the box in his hands. My microwave bailed on me. I was hoping someone around here had one I could borrow. I pointed at Shay's place. Try that house. She collects kitchen appliances like they're pets. He laughed. Good to know, and you? You live with her? Sort of, I said. Long story. Avery didn't push for more. He just smiled, warm and genuine. Well? Welcome to the neighborhood, I guess. He walked away, and I found myself watching him longer than necessary. There was something about him not romantic, not dramatic, just calm. A kind of calm I hadn't seen in a long time. Maybe that's why. As I walked back to Shay's house, a strange feeling washed over me. For the first time, my life didn't feel like it was collapsing. It felt like it was beginning. I didn't know then that Avery would become a part of everything that followed my healing. Mean reveling and the truth I was running from Dot at that moment. I was just a girl standing on a quiet street, breathing freely in a world that had never let her breathe before, and that, honestly, was enough. Asterisk, if someone had told me that the boy who moved in across the street would end up shaping the next chapter of my life, I would have laughed. My world had never been kind enough to offer coincidences that turned into blessings, yet Avery Cole felt different from the first moment. He showed up on Shay's porch the next morning, holding the borrowed microwave like it weighed nothing and wearing the same gentle smile he'd given me the night before. "Hey," he said, shifting his weight awkwardly. "I figured I should return this before I get emotionally attached." Shay snorted. "Don't get attached." Maria already mourned a toaster we recycled last month. I glared at her teasingly. It was a perfectly fine toaster. It shot sparks. She argued that we all laughed easy, comfortable. I wasn't used to comfort with strangers. Avery glanced at me. "You seem more relaxed today." I shrugged. "Trying to be." He didn't push, and maybe that's what made me stay outside longer than usual. Avery had a way of making silence feel safe, not awkward. Over the next week, Avery became a quiet addition to my routine. Not in an intrusive way, he just appeared whenever life allowed him to drift near. Sometimes he waved from across the street. Sometimes he asked Shay and me if we wanted iced coffee. Sometimes he sat on the porch steps with us while we talked about life, school, and dreams. And every time, he carried this calmness that soothed something in me I didn't know needed soothing. He didn't know my past. He didn't know my family. He didn't know the things I ran from. He just saw me, but as peaceful as my days were becoming, my nights weren't. Some nights I woke up expecting to hear Ethan pounding on my door demanding money. Other nights, I felt Mark's gaze in the back of my mind like he still owned a piece of the air I breathed. And one evening, as Shay and I sat outside with Avery, that shadow crept back into my life. We were joking about Shay's disaster-level cooking skills when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it, but something made me look. A text from my mother. "Where are you?" "Ethan needs you." Also, "Mark wants to talk." "Come home." My stomach dropped. Shay noticed immediately. "Maria, what's wrong?" I locked my phone and shoved it in my pocket. "Nothing. It's fine." Avery studied me quietly but didn't pry. Instead, he spoke gently. "You don't have to explain anything. But you also don't have to hold everything alone." His words hit deeper than he knew. I wasn't used to people noticing when I cracked. The next day, Shay left early for a volunteer shift, and Avery texted asking if I wanted to help him unpack some boxes. I agreed, not because I loved unpacking, but because sitting alone with my thoughts felt dangerous. When I arrived, his house smelled like new paint and cinnamon candles. Avery handed me a box cutter. "Careful," he said. "These things are sharper than they look." I grinned. "I grew up with Ethan. I've survived worse." "Brother?" he asked gently. "Something like that," I replied. We unpacked kitchenware, books, and his endless collection of vintage records. Every time I found something interesting, he had a funny story about where he bought it. Avery wasn't loud or overly charming. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was simply real. The kind of person who listened more than he talked and noticed details others ignored. At one point, he looked up from a stack of records and asked, "Did you leave home because you wanted to, or because you had to?" My breath caught. He didn't ask with judgment. "Just care. I had to," I whispered. "That place, it didn't feel like home anymore." He nodded slowly, eyes softening. "Sometimes leaving is the bravest thing we ever do." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until the words settled inside me like a gentle anchor. But the peace didn't last long. When I got back to Shay's house, another message was waiting on my phone. This time from an unknown number. "You think you can disappear? Come home, now." Me froze. Shay noticed my expression the second she walked in. "Maria, what happened?" My voice trembled. I think Mark found my number." The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. The shadows of my old life were reaching into my new one. Shay stepped closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. Listen to me, she said softly but firmly. He doesn't get to control you anymore. Not here. But fear doesn't leave just because someone tells it to. I sat on the edge of the bed that night, staring at the message again and again. My thoughts spiraling. Avery's voice replayed in my mind, sometimes. Leaving is the bravest thing we ever do. But what if the past refuses to let you go? As I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, I realized something terrifying. Running was easy. Staying free was going to be the real battle, and deep down, I knew something else too. This was only the beginning. Asterisk, I must have stared at that message 100 times. You think you can disappear? Come home, now, moan short sentence. And suddenly the walls felt too close, the air too thin. It didn't matter that I was standing in Shay's bright, cozy room. That one message dragged me right back into the suffocating silence of my old house. Mark never texted. He barely spoke. So the fact that he reached out at all made something cold settle under my skin. For a long moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Shay came to stand beside me. Maria, she said quietly, you're shaking. I didn't even notice. It's him, I whispered. He found me. Shay gently took the phone from my hand, reading the message with a frown. This is intimidation, she said. He doesn't get to demand anything from you. I pressed my hands against my face. But how did he get my number? I thought I blocked everything. Shay's voice softened. Your mother could have given it to him. That stung. But it didn't surprise me. My family always treated boundaries like suggestions. Shay sat beside me, her presence warm and steady. Maria, you're safe. This house is yours just as much as mine. But even as she said it, a knot in my chest tightened. I wasn't afraid Mark would show up. I didn't believe he'd do that. I was afraid of the pull he still had over my mind. The way one message could undo weeks of healing. I didn't reply to the message, but I carried it with me everywhere. At breakfast, while folding laundry, during the evening walk Shay insisted we take to air out my head. I was halfway through my tea when my phone buzzed again. A day later. Same unknown number. We need to talk. Don't make this harder than it is. I felt myself shrink inward. The words weren't loud, but they reminded me of his old warnings, the ones wrapped in calm tones that sounded like rules carved into stone. Shay saw my reaction instantly. Is it him again? I handed her the phone, her jaw clenched. He's trying to scare you. That's all this is. But fear didn't need volume. It just needed a tiny crack. The next afternoon, I was sitting on the porch steps when Avery walked over, hands stuffed in his hoodie pockets. The sky was a soft cloudy gray and the air smelled faintly of rain. Hey, he said gently. You look like the world is sitting on your shoulders. I forced a smile. It feels like it is. Avery sat beside me without asking. He didn't crowd me, just sat close enough to feel present. You want to talk? He asked. Part of me wanted to spill everything right there. But another part, the part trained by years of hiding, minimizing, surviving, held back. I got a message. I finally whispered. From someone I don't want in my life. Avery's expression grew serious, not intrusive. Someone from your old house? I nodded. Do you feel unsafe? His question wasn't dramatic. It wasn't leading. It wasn't even about Mark. It was about me. What I felt, I took a shaky breath. I feel unsettled. Like the past doesn't want to stay in the past. Avery nodded slowly. Sometimes people get used to controlling you. When you walk away, they feel that loss more than you ever felt their presence. Something in his tone made me turn to him. You say that like you've lived it. He gave a small, almost sad smile. Everyone has a story. You're not the only one who left a place that didn't feel like home. His honesty opened something inside me, a door I didn't know had been locked. We sat in silence for a moment. The kind that felt meaningful, not uncomfortable. Then he added, whatever that message was, it's not your responsibility anymore. I wanted to believe that. I really did. That night I tried to sleep, but my mind kept circling back to the message. Not the words, just the feeling behind them. The pressure. The expectation. The assumption that I still belonged to a life I had walked away from. I tossed and turned until finally, I got up and paced the small room Shay had made mine. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Mark. It was my mother. Maria, please come home. Your brother is upset. You're making things worse. Of course. It was always my fault when things weren't perfect. Something in me broke, not loudly, but like paper tearing in the dark. I typed back. I'm not coming home. I need space. Please stop giving my number to people. I stared at the message. Then hit send. Within seconds, 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. And again. And again. But no reply came through. For the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt relief. A quiet exhale. A soft reclaiming of my voice. When I stepped outside for air, I found Avery sitting on his porch, reading. He looked up, smiled, and raised a hand. For the first time in weeks, I smiled back real warm and unforced. Maybe the message I shouldn't have read was a reminder. Not that my past still had power, but that I finally had the strength to face it, and I wasn't alone anymore. Asterisk I woke up the next morning expecting peace, but instead, I woke up to Shay banging on my bedroom door like the house was on fire. Maria opened the door. Right now. My heart punched my ribs. I threw on a hoodie and yanked the door open. Shay stood there, phone in hand, face pale. What happened? I whispered. She didn't speak. She just handed me her phone. On the screen was a text message from an unknown number. Tell Maria I know where she is. The world narrowed into a tunnel. Mark. The way the text was shaped. The coldness in the words. I knew it wasn't my mom or Ethan or anyone else. Only he wrote like someone sharpening a knife. No. I breathed. He can't know. He can't be here. Shay swallowed hard. Did you tell anyone where you went? No, no one except you, and a sudden thought hit me like a slap. But no, Avery would never ever tell him. Avery didn't even know who Mark was until last night. Maybe it's just some random scam number, Shay said weakly, but we both knew better. That text felt too real. Too aimed. Too sharp. Don't panic, Shay said, though she was clearly panicking herself. Let's just talk to Avery. Maybe he can help us figure out. Before she could finish, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Step outside, little girl. Shay almost dropped her phone. I froze. Every muscle in my body turned to ice. He was here, somewhere close. Shay whispered, Maria, we can't go out there. We'll call the cops. No, I said instantly. No cops. I can't. He'll twist everything. He always does. My stomach twisted. Mark had a way of playing the victim, turning stories upside down, making everyone think he was the one being hurt. I wasn't ready to face him. Not after all those years under his roof, waiting for the day I'd finally be free. Shay grabbed my hand. Then we need someone else. I'm calling Avery. We don't drag him into too late. She hit call. Avery picked up on the first ring. Shay? You okay? No, you need to come here now. It's serious. Avery didn't ask questions. He just said, on my way. My breath came faster as I stared at the door like it might explode inward at any second. How did he even find me? I whispered. Shay squeezed my hand. Listen to me. You're not alone anymore. He can't just walk in here and decide your life like before. We're here. I'm here. But my thoughts weren't listening. They were running wild, flashing to nights when Mark yelled until the hallway walls shook. Days when I'd hand over my money so he wouldn't take it out on Ethan. Moments when I dreamed of leaving but never believed I could. Was shaking before I even noticed. Shay rapped. Her arms around me and held tight. Sharp knock hit the front door downstairs, not a knock. Pound. Shay and I froze. Another pound. Open up. A voice boomed. Not Mark. Avery. Shay and I rushed downstairs. She flung the door open and Avery stepped inside, chest rising with adrenaline. You scared me half to death, he muttered, pulling Shay into a quick hug before looking at me. What happened? Shay handed him the phone. He read the messages twice. His jaw tightened. He's threatening you. That's enough reason to call. No cops, I said again. My voice cracked. I can't face him like that. Avery blew out a breath, running a hand through his hair. Okay, then we'll do this smart. But before he could finish, my phone vibrated. I looked at the screen, a picture message. When I opened it, my breath stopped. It was a photo of me, taken from outside the house, through the downstairs living room window. The caption read, "You can run." Maria, but you belong to me. I staggered backwards. Avery grabbed the phone. He took this from outside. He's close. Shay locked the door. Maria, come here. But my legs felt like they were sinking into the floor. He was watching me. He had been watching me. I could almost feel his eyes crawling across my skin. Shay locked every window and door. Avery closed the blinds and made me sit on the couch. You're safe here, he said, kneeling in front of me. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Do you hear me? Nothing. My eyes burned deep, but I kept my tears stuck somewhere deep. Like always, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, heavy, right. Past the window. Then silence. Avery's head snapped toward the sound. Shay went still. We waited, but nothing else came. Then a new text buzzed on my phone. See you soon. And just like that, the day the past showed up became the day my freedom cracked open again and everything I'd been running from finally found my shadow. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. Every time floorboards creaked. Every time the house shifted. Every time a car passed outside. My heart jumped like it was trying to run out of my body. Shay stayed awake with me on the couch, one leg bouncing the whole time. Her arm wrapped around me like she was trying to shield me from every shadow. Avery sat in the armchair across from us. Eyes locked on the front door like he was waiting for it to attack. No one spoke until sunrise. Finally, Avery stood, rubbing his face. We can't stay blind. We need answers. Maria, you need to tell us everything. Everything about him. My throat tightened. I never said it out loud. Not all of it. Not the parts that still woke me up shaking, but I owed them the truth. I owed myself the air I'd been holding for too many years. I took a long breath. Mark wasn't always a monster. Avery and Shay went still. He pretended to be good at first, I continued. When he moved in with us, I actually thought he'd help the family. My mom was tired all the time. Ethan was a kid who needed stability. But then? Shay whispered. Then he started showing who he really was. I stared at my hands. He never hit me. Not once. He didn't have to. He used. Control, fear, manipulation. Avery leaned forward, eyes darkening. What did he do? He'd hide my shoes so I'd be late for school. He'd take money from me and say I owed rent. He'd make Ethan come to me for everything so I'd look selfish if I ever said no. If I talked back, he'd punish my mom by ignoring her for days. He'd threaten to leave her broke if I didn't fall in line. Shay flinched. God, it got worse last year, I said quietly. He started following me around the house at night. Standing in the hallway when I thought I was alone, I stared into my room through the crack in the door. He'd say I was imagining things if I confronted him. Avery's chest rose sharply. Why didn't you tell someone? Who? I snapped softly. My mom? She thought I was jealous because Mark finally brought order to the house. Ethan didn't care as long as he got money for games. And school? Nobody notices anything unless you bleed. I looked up at them. He made me believe I was trapped. Shay's eyes filled. Avery's jaw worked like he was chewing back rage. That's why I left, I whispered. Not because I was brave, but because I was exhausted. Avery knelt in front of me again, just like last time. You survived something terrifying, Maria. That's not weakness. I felt my breath shake. But he's here now. And I can't survive him again. Shay touched my shoulder. Then we won't let him near you. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But Mark had a way of slipping into your life like smoke through cracks no one else noticed. A sudden knock shattered the air. Not the door, the window. All three of us jerked toward the sound. Avery moved first, storming to the blinds and lifting a sliver. He froze. What? Shay whispered, voice trembling. He didn't answer. He just turned to us. Face pale, get behind me. My breath vanished. Shay grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the hallway. But Avery stayed rooted near the window. Is he there? I whispered. Avery didn't speak. He didn't need to because a second later, my phone buzzed again. A new message, with shaking fingers. I opened it, a picture, taken from outside. This time not of me, of Avery. Standing at the window, looking out. The caption read, nice guard dog. Shay gasped. Avery's face hardened into something I never seen from him: cold, dangerous, protective. That's it, he said. I'm not playing games anymore. He grabbed his keys and marched to the door. Where are you going? Shay cried. To find him, Avery snapped. He wants to scare Maria from the shadows. I want to look him in the eyes. No. I grabbed his arm. Avery, Mark is not like you. He doesn't fight fair. He doesn't think like a normal person. Avery turned, holding my shoulders. Maria, you're safe when I'm here. But I can't keep you safe if he's hiding in the dark. I need to know who we're dealing with. My voice broke. Don't confront him alone. His expression softened slightly. I won't. I'm calling someone. Who? Shay demanded. Avery hesitated. Then he said a name that made my stomach twist. Your mom. I stumbled back. No, she just defend him. She always, not this time, Avery said calmly. She needs to know what he's doing. She's a part of this, Maria, whether she likes it or not. Tears stung my eyes. I whispered, what if she chooses him again? Avery met my gaze with something steady, unshakable. Then we'll finally know the truth behind her eyes too. And for the first time in years, I realized the truth wasn't just coming for me, it was coming for all of us. I had imagined this moment 1,000 different ways, me standing in front of my mother, telling her everything, and her finally believing me, but never like this, never with a stalker outside the window, never with Avery pacing like a storm, never with Shay squeezing my hand like she was trying to keep me from disappearing. Avery dialed my mom's number, put it on speaker, and crossed his arms as it rang out. My stomach twisted tighter with every beep. Please don't answer, I whispered. But she did. Hello? Her voice was soft, tired like she'd just woken up from some dream I'd never been a part of. Avery didn't wait. Miss Collins. This is Avery Reed. I'm calling because something serious is happening with Maria. Silence. Then, Avery? Why are you calling me? Is Maria sick? I laughed under my breath, bitter, humorless. As if sickness was the only reason she'd worry. No, Avery said. She's in danger. My mom inhaled sharply. Danger? From who? A beat passed. Then Avery said the name that had haunted my entire childhood. From Mark. The silence on the line changed from confused to defensive. What are you talking about? She snapped. Mark has done nothing but help this family. If something happened between him and Maria, I surged forward. Something happened between us? Mom, he stalked me. Manipulated me. Controlled me. He followed me around the house at night. He's outside right now watching us. She exhaled shakily. Maria, don't exaggerate. I'm not. My voice cracked. He sent me pictures. He's here. He's watching. How do you know it's him? She cut in. People get wrong ideas when they're emotional. Avery muttered, unbelievable. My chest tightened so painfully it felt like something was breaking. I'm telling you the truth, I whispered. Why can't you believe me? Her voice softened again, almost pitying. The worst tone of all. Baby? Mark loves us. He wouldn't hurt anyone. That's because he already is. I cried. Shay wrapped an arm around me, grounding me. Avery, voice steady but edged with steel, said, Miss Collins, whether you believe her or not, he's outside sending photos. We've seen them. He knows where we live. This is not a misunderstanding. My mom didn't answer, just breath shallow, shaky, familiar. Then, where are you? I blinked. What? I'm coming over, she said. I need to talk to you face to face. Mom, but she had already hung up. Avery lowered the phone and exhaled. She's coming. I sank into the couch. This is going to end terribly. Shay knelt in front of me. Or maybe it finally won't. Before I could respond, a car stopped outside, headlights cut through the blinds, footsteps rushed up the walkway. A sharp knock rattled the door. Avery opened it cautiously. My mother stepped in. Hair messy, jacket thrown over pajamas. He looked afraid, not for me though. For her reality. For the truth she'd never wanted to face. Where is he? She demanded. Avery pointed toward the window. He was there. My mom walked over. looking out like she expected to see a raccoon instead of a man capable of destroying her daughter. Then her expression was shaped, because another message arrived on my phone. A picture. This time, not of me, not of Avery, of her standing at the window. Taken seconds ago, the caption read, "Finally awake?" My mom stepped back, covering her mouth. "Maria." Oh my God. For the first time ever, she believed me. Tears blurred my vision. "He's never going to stop, Mom." A sudden crash sounded outside, something falling, or someone stepping on broken branches. Avery rushed to the door, but Shay held him back. "No. We call the police, now." He nodded and grabbed his phone. My mom stood frozen, staring at the picture on my screen like it was a confession written in blood. "I let him in," she whispered. "I let him into our home. Into your life. I didn't see it. I didn't want to." Anger surged inside me, but so did grief. "You chose him over me," I said quietly. Her tears fell like something inside her had finally cracked open. "I know." Outside, police sirens grew louder, approaching fast. Mom turned to me, voice trembling. "If he comes near you again, I'll stand between you two this time. I promise." I didn't know if I believed her. Not fully, but for the first time she was standing with me, not against me. The sirens stopped. Flashlights cut through the street. Officers spread out in different directions. One of them walked to the door. "We'll find him," he assured us, but something deep in my bones whispered, this wasn't over. This was only the first confrontation. Not the last, because men like Mark didn't disappear. They waited. They watched, and they came back when you least expected them. But this time, I wasn't the scared girl in the dark house anymore. This time, I wasn't alone, and I wasn't running, not again, not ever.